Scene 4. Time, the same as the previous scene. Place, a conference room in the Pentagon. On stage are 3 persons, 2 men and a woman. They are in military uniforms and all have the rank of general. Their names are General Wilbur Lamont, General Abdul al-Rahim, and General Samantha Strong-Jones. They are professors at the United States Military Peace College.
I've been reviewing a report from one of our operatives at Radbourne State Institution. It's quite interesting.
What's it say?
It doesn't say anything. It's a report.
I'm just using a figure of speech.
You see how communication can get jumbled?
It happens all the time. Too many figures of speech.
Excuse, sir, but I speak clearly and plainly.
Please don't take offense. We have work to do.
Okay, I won't.
I said nothing to give offense.
Now he's offended.
Now both of you are offended.
Well, I refuse to discuss anything until he apologizes.
I will not. In fact, now I even feel more offended.
Well, that goes double for me.
Gentlemen, if the two of you continue on like this, then I will be offended.
I can't help the way I feel. As a senior military officer in charge of a $27 billion department, I can't allow anybody to upstage me.
You're pulling rank? Well, 2 can play at that game. Let me remind you that my department gets more funding than yours.
And let me remind the both of you that I represent the President of the United States.
Who called this meeting anyway?
Good question. I don't really know.
At the Peace Through War College, we heard rumors about some new breakthrough in biomathematical logic. A new way of configuring numbers that expands our understanding of the universe and time.
Well, that's exactly what I was reading about.
So it was you who called this meeting?
No.
Then who did?
Before I can talk about anything, we need to get to the bottom of this.
We're here. Why not just have the meeting?
Because unauthorized meetings are not allowed.
Isn't this meeting authorized?
I don't know. And frankly, this worries me. Are we being manipulated by an outside force?
General, is this your doing? Are you trying to steal information from us?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I think you do. The fact of your denial proves that you're trying to hide something.
That is absurd. I've been in the Army for 30 years and fought my way to one of the highest administrative positions at the War College.
Well, that was all politics. Look at you. You couldn't find your way out of a paper bag.
Yes, I could. Give me a paper bag and I'll prove it.
How dumb is that?
Who are you calling dumb?
No one. I was referring to the situation and not to anyone in particular.
We all got here through politics.
Speak for yourself. I climbed the promotion ladder the hard way by pulling straight A's in all my classes and speaking highly of all my professors, especially in those who took a special interest in me.
My commanders took a special interest in me, too.
Well, that's because of where you're from.
How you're going to use that against me?
Facts are facts. If you were from Hoboken, you would never have made it past captain.
That is a lie. I gained every promotion through merit and hard work.
And that your father was the emir of the Central Islamic Kingdom with close ties to the U.S. and gas industry?
We know all about that at the White House.
You see, it's okay with the boss.
Which boss are you referring to?
I only have one boss, the president.
Of course you do.
I've heard different. Is it true that you're in line to become king?
Is that true?
I have renounced all claims to the throne.
Prove it.
Gentlemen, we're here to discuss other matters.
Even though we don't know who called the meeting?
As special envoy from the White House, I'll get to the bottom of the question later. Now, General, what is it that the report that caught your attention?
It's like this. According to my operative inside the mathematical department, the department discovered a new theorem that proves conclusively that 1 plus 1 equals 3.
And?
That's it.
You called this meeting to tell me that? Everyone knows that.
Oh, they do?
Absolutely. It's been known for at least 1,000 years.
But isn't 1 plus 1 2?
Not necessarily. Permit me to explain. Consider a triangle. When the square of the hypotenuse exceeds the tangent of the linear coefficient, that creates distortion in the base of the logarithmic factor to the power of 9. To make allowances for that deviation, we then need to factor in the degree of the arc that produces a parabolic equation that supersubstantiates the integrity of the numerical values found in the number 1. Now, please understand that when two number 1s are combined, they form a mathematical body unique to the natural world. This takes us to the biological factor. About 1,000 years ago, the famous mathematician Shah Ramid ben Youssef bin Abkar illustrated this phenomenon in his now iconic formulation that he later published in his now famous work, The Secret World of Numbers and Their True Meaning. It's an 18-volume work that successfully refutes every principle of Western scientific and cultural thought, including the entire work of Isaac Newton, who, as Abkar proved, got it wrong. Today, his work, this tower of logical light, is buried at a secret location in the middle of the desert.
Why there?
In 1783, the same year that the U.S. officially won its independence from Great Britain, or so we've been told, the British discovered the Abkar writings and immediately had it banned. They also made some minor adjustments to Abkar's original equation that, in my humble opinion...
You're humble?
Excuse me, please don't interrupt. As I was saying, a team of British mathematicians led by the famous Professor Lord Wilmot, 15th Duke of Berkshire, reconfigured certain numbers in Abkar's equation. Wilmot committed this act of cultural vandalism in a deceitful attempt to get Abkar's findings to confirm the validity of Britain's most famous intellectual fraud, Isaac Newton. Instead, it produced a new set of variables that yielded yet another set of results that rendered the original equation virtually useless for anyone. Unwilling to admit their error and desperate to conceal his crime, Wilmot ordered the original Abkar work to be suppressed and buried in a special vault located in the middle of the Pan-Iranian desert, where it lies to this day. Its exact location has been lost.
So what you're saying is that the proposition that 1 plus 1 equals 3 in fact is true?
Yes, I am. Abkar proved it, and the West refuses to believe it.
We proved it too.
Obviously, you were not listening to me. I just told you that the theorem was discovered and proved in Persia almost 1,000 years ago.
I listened to every word you said and frankly was not impressed. While it may be true that this Abkar fellow developed an interesting theorem that allegedly disproved what seemed to be an incontrovertible fact, namely that 1 plus 1 equals 2, the fact is that everything you said was nothing but pseudo-intellectual bunk. The fact is that Abkar was onto nothing. According to what you said, the coefficient of the hypotenuse as it relates to the right angle is a determining factor that affects the relationship between the numbers that result therefrom. Well, if that's the case, then the numbers could produce square roots that, when factored in the existing set of variables, would produce a new set of coefficients that would result in a product that contradicts the original hypothesis. According to Nolling's law of reciprocal numbers, such a finding is a practical impossibility. Thus, everything that Abkar published was nothing but bunk.
How dare you say that? Abkar was correct. If you weren't so biased against Iranians, you would admit it.
Don't call me biased.
Hey, he said it, not me.
Because it's the truth.
Just like all the Abkar garbage is the truth.
General, I found your exposition on the Abkar work most interesting, especially as it relates to those factors that create a new understanding of the meaning of the sum of one. It bears an uncanny similarity to other secret research at the Institute of the Advancement of Proto-Neurological Science in Kensington, Alaska, located just a few miles south of the Arctic Circle.
Why was I not informed? I had the highest security clearance.
So do I. I wasn't informed either.
Well, I can understand the government not informing Abdul, but why did they leave me out of the loop?
I can't discuss that here. It's classified information.
And I have no access? Me? The officer who has been entrusted with the command of some of the nation's most sensitive academic national security research projects?
The president felt that you were already involved with too many projects. He did not want to burden you further.
Can you tell us more about the current work being done in Kensington, Alaska?
Yes, the president has authorized me to bring you into the loop, provided that you promise to protect the secrecy of what you are about to be told. Do you promise?
I promise.
I promise to.
Duly noted. Okay, now both of you gentlemen are aware of the intense debate that is going on at the highest academic circles over the nature of the number or quantity we call the zero.
Yes, I've gone to a couple of conferences where this subject came up for discussion.
I attended the same conferences. I heard nothing about the subject that was especially interesting. They talked about the zero. So what?
At Kensington, the United States Secret Pseudoscience Council brought together a team of proto-neurological scientists and philosophers from all over the world to determine the feasibility of using the zero as a source of energy. They based their work, which cost the taxpayers over $58 billion, on a mathematical theory first proposed by the late Professor Lester J. McNally at the University of Lower Manitoba in Canada. McNally's theory, known as McNally's theory of inverse-reverse induction, is based on a series of experiments McNally conducted on the nature and property of the zero.
A zero is a zero.
McNally believed that too. But in his experiments, he found that when he combined the zero with another quantity, it produced a product that was more than zero. It's an incredible discovery. Out of nothing could be produced something. The military applications are virtually endless.
Could you please expand further on the so-called theory?
Of course. It's like this. When isolated, the zero is a zero. That is, of course, a tautology. Something is something and not something else. Standing alone, a zero is nothing. It denotes emptiness, a vacuum, a lack of matter, a blank. However, through a series of rigorous experiments, each involving a double-blind suprareticular study, Professor McNally was able to harness the inner anti-molecular structure that makes up the zero. By doing this, first he had to prove that the zero was in fact not a zero. This was a daunting task. Heretofore, it was presumed that a zero was nothing. However, by applying the theory of the antimatter inverse-reverse proto-pseudo-psychological continuum, which in discovering and isolating the subelectronic super-subatomic substructure of the zero.
I don't quite follow.
Okay, let me give you a simple analogy. You know the phrase, doing nothing, right?
Yes.
Good. Doing nothing sounds pretty straightforward. Doing nothing means just that, doing nothing. However, by doing nothing Are we not in fact doing something? That by doing nothing, we are in fact doing something which is doing nothing. The same thing applies to the zero. Its apparent nothingness is something. Nothing is something. Isn't that beautiful? So simple, so self-evident. It is that something of nothingness that makes the zero so valuable. Gone are the days when a number multiplied by 0 equals 0. Now that formula will yield to untold power. It is just a matter of developing the technology to enable us to tap into the unlimited source of energy stored up in the zero's super subatomic proto super substructure.
I can imagine the day when all our weapons will be powered by nothing.
Now you've got it. This is exactly what's being worked on right now. Isn't it exciting?
The possibilities are endless, unlimited energy. No more need for war.
I wouldn't go that far.
You may be right.
No way. We will always need the military.
I'm in the military too, but unlike you, I'm willing to put the needs of my country ahead of my own petty personal needs.
Oh, that's easy for you to say. Your father is a king. I need my job to survive.
Nobody said anyone will be losing jobs.
But that's only inevitable. When researchers finally succeed in combining the Kensington findings with the McNally theorem, we will possess the capability to produce a zero-powered bomb that will make the hydrogen bomb seem like a firecracker. The military as we know it will become obsolete.
That's good.
No, that's bad. We need the military to keep the economy going.
No, we don't.
I knew it. You want us to be defenseless, don't you? Admit it.
Don't be absurd.
Don't call me absurd.
Gentlemen, stop this bickering. This is not the time or place to discuss matters of policy.
I disagree. This is exactly the time and place to discuss matters of policy.
Let me remind you that we are not elected officials.
Meanwhile, I still have no idea who called the meeting.
We're here to discuss some really important research.
I know that, but for what purpose?
Oh, that's the president's call.
Does he know about this potential new weapon system?
The president knows everything.
Everything?
Well, not literally everything.
Does he actually understand the nature of the research? You know, he's not exactly the professor type.
And what is the professor type?
Or someone who's an intellectual snob.
You're a professor, so that must make you a snob too.
Well, not exactly. I'm a military officer first, and a professor second.
So what, you're still a professor?
Yes, you are as well. In fact, as the three of us are. So much book learning, yet here we are, gabbing away like crazy birds who drive people crazy with this incessant chirping. Oh, how I hate that sound. It's the worst sound in the world. Every time I hear it, I want to kill somebody.
I hate grinding and buzzing sounds. They penetrate into the depth of my brain. I completely go to pieces whenever I hear it. Just thinking about it makes me want to vomit or punch a hole through the wall.
Haven't you ever heard of earplugs?
I tried that, but they don't work. I've also tried relaxation therapy, cognitive therapy, insight-oriented therapy, eating chocolate cake, drinking gallons of vodka, reciting Shakespeare at the top of my lungs, and running the 50,000-meter marathon. None of it works. In fact, they make things worse.
Why don't you try putting your head underwater for 5 or 10 minutes, or even longer?
Oh, I abhor water. I drink it only because I must, and bathe in it as infrequently as possible. But I may give you a suggestion to try.
I did try it.
Did it work?
Yes, it made me unconscious. But the cure is only temporary. The effect wears off once you are revived. Sometimes I wonder if it wouldn't help if I wasn't revived.
That could help too. Maybe we should ask Congress to appropriate a couple $1 billion for research on noise abatement.
Why only a couple of billion? Why not 5 or 10 billion?
I agree with that. No need to shortchange ourselves, right? After all, the taxpayers expect a lot from us.
I'll bring it up with the president.
Well, that would be greatly appreciated. And while you're at it, please don't forget to remind him of the promise to nominate me as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Wait a minute. He promised to nominate me.
Why would the president want to nominate anybody with the name of Abdul? How far would your nomination get in the Senate?
A lot further than yours, buddy.
Don't you buddy me, buddy. Remember, I'm the one who introduced you to your wife.
Who just happens to be your sister. Why did I ever listen to you in the first place?
What's wrong with my sister?
She has you as a brother.
Come on now, let's not bring personal issues into this discussion.
It's not personal. It's just that I don't like when anybody speaks badly about my sister.
Listen, buddy, you keep on talking this way and you can forget about being invited for Thanksgiving dinner.
You wouldn't dare.
Listen, as far as I'm concerned, you're nothing but a fool and a charlatan.
All this abuse, after all I've done for you, it's not fair. If it weren't for me, there would never have like you in this country.
You were well paid for your services.
Yeah, probably pay me $50 and give me a pack of baseball cards, well paid.
At that time, $50 was a lot of money. It wasn't my fault that you traded your baseball cards for that phony Babe Ruth bat that even a bookworm could see was fake.
Meanwhile, the president has asked me to ask the both of you to help him provide an answer to a question. It was brought up during his recent conference with our allies in northern Greenland. The prestige of our country is on the line.
We'll try our best.
Trying is not an option. You must provide him the answer. Failure to do so will mean that the U.S. will lose face with our allies.
Okay, understood. Now, what is the question?
What is the width of a straight line?
This is what they discuss at those conferences? Widths of lines? This is what the taxpayers are paid through the nose? It almost makes me want to become a tax invader, except I don't pay taxes.
Well, we can calculate the width of a line using a virtually unknown and seldom used formula. Of course, the easy way to calculate the width of a line is to take out a measuring device, such as a ruler, and measure it.
But the problem is that by doing that, then the line is no longer treated as a line, but rather as an elongated rectangle. So, my dear colleagues, I need an answer now. The president is waiting to hear from me. If I don't provide him with the answer, he will want an explanation. And I can assure you, it will not be me who will be the scapegoat. I hope I make myself clear.
Now, I remember doing research on a similar problem, but it had to do with calculating the roundness of a circle. We had discovered that some circles are more round than others.
That's very interesting. But this is about straight lines, not circles.
Look, we all know that a line is a mental construct. Thus, by definition, it lacks width. Yet we all know how to draw lines. So, to me, the solution is clear. By transposing the mental image of a line onto a piece of paper and then repositioning or reorienting its superaxial component, properties that are embedded in both ends of all lines, we can arrive at a solution that will provide our dear president with the answer he needs. It's merely a question of applying the principle of common sense.
Well, that makes all the sense in the world to me.
In all my years as a professor of advanced proto-natural philosophy, I've never heard of something so profoundly insightful as what you just described in your discourse. I am sure the president will feel the same way.
Yet there are those who will not accept the somethingness of the zero. Pathetic. It's that kind of closed-mindedness that is eroding the moral fabric of our nation.
The president is determined to reverse that trend. He is searching for people with new ideas and new ways of reconfiguring all that we now take for granted. For instance, we presume that the earth is round and that water flows downstream and not up. But such thinking is restrictive and excludes other possibilities. It produces intellectual inflexibility that stifles creativity. And that's why we are here. To create new pathways to greater understanding and thereby make the world a better place in which to live. Even if our political enemies and all the other stupid and closed-minded people who will do and say anything to suppress and avoid the truth.
Under my command, the Interstellar Research Department will be conducting a series of rocket launches to confirm whether the Earth is still round. Personally, I believe it could lead to a breakthrough in the way we understand our environment and lead to a fundamental restructuring of our entire intercontinental defense system. It makes no sense whatever to spend billions of dollars on an anti-defense missile system without first confirming the actual shape of the planet.
My command plans a similar series of studies to confirm the existence of the reverse gravitational effect, the force that allows water to naturally flow upstream. It's a continuation of a $15 billion project we launched 5 years ago to study the effects of anti-gravitational quasi-radiation on the internal mini-molecular structure of robotic rabbits that we bombarded with up to 18 million quadzillion megavolts of semi-protonic energy for 1/19 of a second. The results were astounding.
Now you're talking. This is exactly the kind of thinking the president wants. It will yield practical results that will strengthen our national defense and make the country a better place in which to live.
Now let's get to work. Where would this world be without us? The college professors of the world who do all this remarkable and important work. We are truly a gifted profession.
End of scene 4. Scene 5. Time, 1 month later. Place, a television studio. On stage are 2 men and a woman. All 3 are candidates for President of the United States. They are having a debate which is being televised. The woman's name is Joanna Jensen Jones. The first man's name is Harold J. Brennington. And the other man's name is Ergon Olivarsky. He is the President of the United States. As the scene opens, we join the debate in progress. Mr. President, your administration so far has made the country the laughingstock of the world.
I don't see anybody laughing in the audience. Do you?
Sir, please don't make light of this. Since you took office, we've done nothing except insult people, hobnob with dictators, and fight with everybody, including members of your own staff.
You know, Joanna, all of that's a bunch of malarkey and concocted by a media that will say about anything to make me look bad. In fact, the people love me. I'm the greatest president ever to occupy the White House.
Greater than FDR? Greater than Reagan?
Oh, much greater. They didn't have time to clean up the kind of mess I inherited from my corrupt and venal predecessor. When I took office, I found the government so mired in stupidity that it made my head spin.
You've been saying that for almost 4 years now. I think it's time you take responsibility for the mess that you created.
And how you cheated your way into office.
Wait a minute, Pinhead. Are you calling me a cheat? I won the election, fair and square.
No, you didn't. Your friends gave you inside information that they stole and sold to you. Why can't you admit it?
Because it's not true, that's why. I've been saying that for the past 4 years. If anyone is a puppet for the special interest, it's you, Mr. Mushhead. Everything inside your head is mush. That's what happens when you serve too long in Congress. Your brain cells wither away. It's a fact. I read that in a medical journal.
There you go again, making up things. You live in a fantasy world.
Listen, Ms. Petunia Head. If anybody is living in a fantasy world, it's you. Why would anybody want to vote for a woman as ugly as you? Have you looked at yourself in the mirror lately?
My looks are not the issue here.
Oh, yes, they are.
Isn't that being a bit superficial?
Are you sticking up for her? What kind of man are you?
Man enough to have served 3 tours of combat duty overseas.
Big deal. I served as president of the Upper Long Island Yacht Club Association.
Oh, yes, I forgot. You were made honorary admiral.
Oh, that's right. It was a tough job. I had to make all kinds of decisions. But it all worked out for the best because it prepared me to take on this awesome responsibility of my current office.
I was chief operating officer of one of the largest international corporations of the world.
Then you ran it into the ground.
I did no such thing.
Stop lying. The company went belly up while you bailed out of a $100 million parachute for a job well done.
The general should stay with the troops, not abandon them to their fate. After I'm elected president, my first official act will be to sign an executive order promising that I will take full responsibility for all actions taken by my administration.
You wouldn't last a week.
I never bailed out from the company. That's just another lie you fabricated.
No fabrication, the truth. I received thousands of emails, Instagrams, and tweets from all the workers you abandoned.
Could you provide me with a copy of those emails?
No, I will not. They are private and personal communications. You've just to take my word on it.
Take your word for it? Are you joking?
Well, I don't joke when it comes to emails. By the way, Harold, which is such a pansy name, I checked into your military record. The closest we ever got to combat was a shoving match with a female whack at Fort Poseidon in Utah.
You don't know what you're talking about.
For him, that's normal.
That's the problem with both of you. You're both so stupid. You say and do stupid things. Your stupidity revolts me. You are the products of a culture that awards stupidity. In fact, stupidity and produces clowns like you. That is why I launched my program, Make America Smart Again. We need smartness. We need new ways to think things. We need to produce people who are savvy. That's why I was elected. The people were tired of all the stupidity that was destroying our country.
King of Dumb wants to make America smart? That's a laugh.
You sure have a funny way of doing it.
That's the problem with you two jerks. You both have closed minds.
At least I have a mind. I wonder about you, though. Going around telling people that 1 and 1 is 3, and that a circle is really a round square, garbage like that.
My people are involved in serious research that is uncovering startling new facts.
You mean like at Radbourne College, where that biomathematics department, with whatever that is making all those so-called new discoveries?
Exactly. And don't forget the work being done at the War University in D.C., where they discovered incredible new properties about the zero.
In other words, about nothing.
No, not about nothing, about something. Yet, the media doesn't report it right. They think it's a bunch of hogwash, only because I support it.
Oh, right. That the zero is a potential source of energy? Really brilliant stuff. Like, that kind of knowledge will really help the country.
Mr. President, You are not making the country smarter.
You're saying that because you didn't make these discoveries first. The people love what I'm doing.
Not according to the polls.
According to my polling, I'm at 83% approval rate, the highest approval rate in history.
Who validated your polling? Your team at Radburn University?
Now, don't you start knocking Radburn. They are at the cutting edge of a whole new understanding of our perceptions of space and time.
Oh, you mean when they're smoking a little weed or popping some special pills?
You are such a jerkhead. You have no imagination. You are part of the old think that has gotten this country into such deep trouble.
Old think? You mean as opposed to new think?
That's right. New think is the way to the future, and I'm going to make it happy. And when I'm finished, oh, America will be the smartest nation in the world. The American people will be so smart that nobody will ever be able to outsmart them again. That's what Make America Smart Again is all about. You two represent intellectual stagnation. I represent intellectual rebirth.
Do you really believe that 1 + 1 = 3?
According to the experts, it does. And I have to go with what they say.
Doesn't common sense dictate that 1 + 1 = 2?
Don't try to confuse me with such stupid arguments, okay? That's the problem with you people. You're so close-minded.
To me, we need a president who understands that 1 + 1 = 2.
I understand it, so that qualifies me.
You're just saying that, Al. Just the other day, you proposed sending a basketball to Mars.
That's right, to find out how high it would bounce.
You stole that idea from me. My space agency people studied the exact same thing 3 years ago. And where you been, Al?
If I recall correctly, they used a computer model. Anybody can do that. I would use a real ball.
Such a project would cost billions of dollars. Not worth it. This irresponsible spending of the taxpayers' money on such rubbish is why the country is going bankrupt.
Rubbish to you. Breakthrough science to me. Joanna, you have our priorities all wrong. All you're concerned with is money. Well, I have news for you. There's more to government than spending money. That's something called leadership, which I provided from the very first moment I took office.
Under your leadership, the public debt has quadrupled.
But the stock market is at an all-time high, and now we have more billionaires.